probably changing the locks a bit and then getting Tega right inside just in time. Good morning, Tega.
Sorry, good morning. Okay, I am so sorry.
What happened to your key? You couldn't find your spare key to the locker room. You should have told me.
The network is tricky, yes. But we are in here, so we're going to try and make it work. I am so sorry, everybody. We are starting really late, but let's just quickly jump right into it. With how people can be a part of the show, and then we'll go straight to the story. So the first things, numbers to send your messages to, and maybe even on YouTube.
Now, to be part of the conversation inside the locker room this morning, we'll be on 0809-444-0981, expecting you to send those WhatsApp messages to the number 0809-444-0981. You can catch us up on YouTube, and that will be on youtube.com/Smooth981FM Lagos. And you can find us also on X at Smooth981FM. Tega, here we are. All right, Tega, we're good to go. So let's get into the stories this morning with so much stories to pick up. Red Bull take constructors title as Verstappen wins in Japan. And there is also to come, Team World beats Team Europe to claim back-to-back Lava Cup titles as Morata brace helps Atletico end Real Madrid winning streak as Pochettino praise for Spurs outstanding leader Son. And struggling Chelsea need to grow up. Pochettino is the one speaking, and Mbappe comes off as PSG demolish Marseille, as Inter extends Serie A lead as Di Marco missile sinks Empoli. Then Xavi hails Barca's new winning character after Celta comeback. That's the stories to look out for.
One of the craziest matches on Saturday was the Xavi Hernandez and Barcelona comeback. 80th minute, it was 2-0 to Celta Vigo. At the end of the match, Barcelona won it by 3-2. But we'll talk about that when we get there. First of all, let's start with what happened in Japan yesterday.
When they all moved away from Singapore, and then here they come. So say Formula One leader Max Verstappen ran away with the Japanese Grand Prix from pole position on Sunday as his dominant Red Bull team secured the constructors title for the second year in a row. One-time mistake, second time.
This was expected. The question was not how, it was when. I think Red Bull are leading Mercedes, who are the closest constructor to them, by over 300 points. There's no catching that. They won every race this season apart from the Singapore race where Ferrari won. So it was always expected that we were going to win it pretty quickly. And yesterday, like I said, it was a circuit for them. And I know people say, but Sergio Perez is not doing as well. But Max Verstappen was always going to win. And he was dominant from practice sessions to qualifying, and then in the race itself. Every other action that happened in the race happened behind him. Nothing of he was good from start to finish. But the drama, I think, happened a little bit with Mercedes, and this is what I've always said about Mercedes. You know, they like to let their drivers fight. You know, even when they know their lead driver, or even when they know, they say things like, "Oh, the driver with the most points get preferable treatment." But most in general, they just let them fight it out on the racetrack. And George Russell was slower than Lewis Hamilton, but he was ahead of Lewis Hamilton. And he was hoping that, you know, himself and Lewis Hamilton would do what Carlos Sainz did last race. So he would give Lewis Hamilton DRS so that Lewis Hamilton will be a buffer between himself and Carlos Sainz. And Lewis Hamilton was like, look, Carlos Sainz, Ferrari, they did upgrade this weekend and they're fast. So if we try to do what happened last weekend, Carlos Sainz is going to overtake me and he's going to overtake you, and then we will lose out. But I don't think, because they don't communicate that well in the car, I don't think George Russell got the message. And Lewis Hamilton was just like, move over, let me pass before we lose our position. And I think eventually they had to squabble with Lewis almost pushing George off the track. just to overtake him, and then he got ahead of him. Unfortunately for George, Carlos Sainz also passed him, but he couldn't pass Lewis Hamilton, which is what Lewis Hamilton was trying to avoid. So there was that squabble over the radio where George Russell was angry and he was venting, but I think they would have sorted it out by now in the garage. But that was the only thing that was really happening behind Max Verstappen. It was the switching of drivers in McLaren and the switching of drivers in Mercedes. But everything else, it was same old Red Bull dominant from start to finish. With Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez had his own drama with crashing out in the race and then coming back on track to save his penalty and then retiring his car. So congratulations to Red Bull. They've decided who their lead driver is and they're following it through, regardless of any sentiments. But the rest of the constructors, McLaren, Mercedes, that like to say their Ferrari, that like to say their drivers should fight it out. Well, good luck to you, because Red Bull has been dominant and they're winning it. I don't know how they can stop them, but let's see whether next season any other constructors will catch up.
Let's see if we can drift away to Spain in 2 minutes from Japan, if this works before we hit the red light for a stop. Morata brace helps Atletico end Real Madrid's winning streak. That's what we see here. Alvaro Morata struck twice for Atletico Madrid.
All right, we're supposed to get to Level Cup, but let's touch Atletico Madrid first. Huge one this weekend. I actually gave this one to Real Madrid because based on the form and the performance of both teams, I didn't see how Atletico Madrid was going to be able to stop Real Madrid. But I think the rivalry brought out a different level of urgency and intensity from the Atletico Madrid, because from the blast of the whistle, Atletico started attacking Real Madrid. And they stretched that Real Madrid defense, especially with their pace and their athleticism, and that's where Real Madrid struggled a little bit. So 3 minutes in, Morata gets a cross, puts the header in the back of the net. 8 minutes later, Griezmann scores the second goal. So it was 2-0. And then Real Madrid pulls one back, and I thought, okay, this is going to be the comeback. This is going to be the start of the revival. But at the start of the second half, literally 40 seconds into the second half, Morata scores again, makes it 3-1, and that's how the game ended. It was a struggle for Real Madrid. They played second fiddle to Atletico Madrid all evening. Jude Bellingham, Rodrigo, they were getting the ball to their feet and they were getting some passes, but they couldn't really make any headway into Atletico Madrid's defense. So I would say this was a brilliant way to come back for Atletico Madrid. Remember, they had dropped points against Lazio in the Champions League and they had lost to Valencia the weekend before. But this week they came back and they took out the biggest guy in La Liga. Real Madrid hadn't lost a match or dropped a point since the start of the season. So they took out the most informed team in La Liga, and that can build your confidence, that can get you back on a good winning run. So it was a good one for them, but for Real Madrid, I'm sure a lot of people will be asking them what they were doing in the transfer market, because that lack of a world-class striker is evident when they play big games like this.
All right, it's on this note we'll say you're listening to The Locker Room on Smooth 98.1 FM. We'll be back after this time out. Tega Onojiafe is still here inside The Locker Room. When we come back, Lava Cup news is still here for you. And of course, some Tottenham Hotspur news is still here and more. Stay tuned.
This is for your kind of music and my kind of music, soul music. It's in right here in Smooth 98.1.
Sorry, are there any messages that Omas? Omaso. Omas.
What does future forward banking mean to you? Speed, innovation, convenience, lifestyle goals, or just simply
Tega,
can you hear me?
Yes, I can. So would you like some messages are in here for
Yes,
you?
let's come in with some messages straight, and then we'll go straight to the sports story.
Okay, lava cup.
Leave lava cup.
Okay.
We believe that banking should be all about you and your business and how to get you to the next level. If you do not already have a Providence bank account, please speak with our business concierge on 0700 77 684 387 or email businessconcierge@providencebank.com to switch to a future forward banking experience. Providence Bank, future forward banking.
Omas, just Omas. Oh goodness, Omas.
This is Frank. Listen to smooth records on Smooth 98.4. Love music, love live.
And we're back. We're Smooth 98.1 FM. You're listening to The Locker Room, and I've got Princess Tega Onojiafe still with me. Tega, as a matter of fact, someone during the break made a case for you instantly and said, Omatseye, please call up Princess Tega, not just Tega.
Thank you, thank you. All right, but before we do that, because we are out of time, let's just go straight to the North London Derby, and
All
then
right,
we start
please.
taking the messages.
You promised you were going to give us something from the Lava Cup, and that's. But if you're going to the North London Derby, let's see. Postecoglou praise for Spurs' outstanding leader. That's what he said. He praised on Tottenham Hotspur captain Son Heung-min after South Koreans double meant the Australian manager's first taste of North London Derby ended with a battling point in a 2-2 draw on Sunday.
All right, so the much talked about North London Derby with a lot of people saying that, Arsenal could get this one on paper. And truth be told, Arsenal were in great form, but so have Tottenham Hotspur been. They've been, doing their own without as much noise as their neighbors. They've been hard to beat. They've been a completely different team. They've been well coached. They've been like a well-oiled machine. The Gunners on the other side, they're more exciting. They play exciting football. They get good results, and of course, with the drama that their coach is doing with all his changes, that we don't know if they are tactical or emotional. We just they've been making so much noise. So a lot of people would have said Arsenal should take the North London Derby. But on the day, Arsenal did flatter to deceive. I would say this. A couple of, injuries made sorry. Mikel Arteta have to drop Leandro Trossard. He had scored in 2 consecutive games, so it would have been, crazy to not see him in the starting lineup. But he had an injury, so he was dropped. His Arteta started with a makeshift of Gabriel Jesus and Edin Ketia. And for some reason, Edin Ketia had the most horrible game I've seen him play. I'm not saying he's even one of the good players, but he's not one of the good players or greatest players in Arsenal. And then he had a horrible game. So you can imagine how bad he was. And Mikel Arteta watched an entire 45 minutes of that horrible display. Second half started, watched an entire 20 minutes of that same horrible display. And when he wanted to substitute a striker, I expected that he would have taken out Nketiah, moved Gabriel Jesus to the center, and then bring on Nelson. He took out Gabriel Jesus. So I'm just wondering, Mikel Arteta, what did you...
Hello, Tega. Okay, the network's still playing some tricks here, but let's see. Tega,
that made you make such at the end of... Can you hear me?
Yes, good. Go on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we lost you for a moment there, but in terms of what you were saying.
Because your team is in great form. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So your team is in great point, it's in great form, and they can't win matches against tough opposition. When they are not in great form, what do you expect them to do? So I know that Arsenal will say this was a good result for two strong teams, but I would say Arsenal dropped 2 points because I think, first of all, they couldn't break Tottenham down, and secondly, they gave Tottenham two cheap goals, almost on the back of scoring their own goal, especially the second goal that was given away by Jorginho. So not a good result, if you ask me, by Arsenal, because yesterday looked like a definite 3 points for them, but they just didn't play their best match on the day that they needed it.
It looks like a fine place for us to drift straight to Stamford Bridge if it's not under maintenance and probably total overhaul and reconstruction at this moment after yesterday's outing. Struggling Chelsea need to grow up, Pochettino is saying.
All right, so I don't know what he wants them to grow up on the pitch, but that's what you paid for. You paid for a lack of experience. But yes, an even more horrible day for Chelsea yesterday. They had an entire week to prepare for the match. Aston Villa played midweek in Europe, so you'd expect that Aston Villa would not put up the greatest of performance. So for Chelsea to not be able to take advantage of that, and on top of that, get a red card that put them that made them eventually lose the match, because the Aston Villa goal came from Chelsea being overloaded when they had gone on an attack. It's a tough one. But I would say this for Pochettino. I don't think that they can mature by themselves. You know, a lot of teams have that transition period, but they also leave some leadership from the past team to have the transition period to go through. Chelsea did none of that. They sold everybody and bought all new. And the shiny new medals that they have, it's not getting them any wins. So this is beyond just emotional maturity now. I think players need to sit with themselves and start bringing up performance. You can't make the excuse of we are a new team. Even the way the players communicate with each other, connect with each other on the pitch, you have to question what they do in training, because it's almost as if they come every Saturday and meet each other for the first time. So I don't see. Tottenham have a new coach, but the players connect well with each other. The Chelsea players are still playing like individuals that are just meeting, and that is more a coaching problem to me than just player performance. So it's something that also Pochettino has to look at himself.
And that looks like a fine place for us to drift away to France this morning.
Can we get some messages in and leave France for now?
Okay, France can wait. Paris will wait. Let's see. Tayo comes in with a message here from Aja. The line in Chelsea logo has gone. It is not coming back until the team gets some bravery. How can you spend over 1 billion and be struggling with a goal of the month and oscillating between 12th and 14th? Madrid scoring a goal, gradually becoming a future impossible sentence. He can't score to save himself the shame, even if it's by mistake. That's what Tayo sent in. And then comes a message from Emeka Onelum. Emeka Onelum says, Mr. Giorgio forgot he is no longer in Chelsea with the way he gave away the ball for the Tottenham equalizer. However, kudos to Spurs. They've really improved under this new coach, even without Harry Kane, who also performed excellently across the other side. And as for Chelsea, I heard the lion on the logo has left the club. Bro has had enough. Even Luton Town that Chelsea beat must be feeling embarrassed at the moment. Then comes in Chimobi Victor from Alaba International, says, my darling Arsenal choose to disappoint when it matters most. But truth of the matter is that we will surely bounce back, while for Real Madrid, they just messed last night. And for Chelsea, they need several general overseers to pray for them, because their problem is beyond listening to the locker room or hashtag locker room 981. Can we get back to France in time now?
To France now. Let's get back to France.
Mbappe comes off hurt as PSG demolished Marseille. That's by 4-0 victory for the reigning champions.
That would be a tough one for Mbappe, for PSG, if Mbappe really gets hit by injuries. But it was a beautiful display, a complete outclassing of Marseille by PSG. This was supposed to be their own rivalry in the big rivalry in France. But like I said, Marseille has been suffering from a crisis, injury crisis, players not understanding what's happening with the club. Last weekend, they were able to get a 3-3 draw. Sorry, not last weekend. Against Ajax, they were able to get a 3-3 draw, and everybody was like, "That's shocking for Marseille that is struggling to get that." But this weekend, they're reminded of their crisis. From everything in the game, they were second to the ball, second to their 18-yard box, second, everything they came second. In fact, 4-0 was a very complimentary result for them. The beauty of the goals, especially the Hakimi free kick, I can't get over that one. But yes, I can't get over that free kick. But PSG did a fantastic job. Unfortunately for them, Mbappe picked up that injury. Now, at the end of the match, Luis Enrique, the coach, was saying that it's not a serious injury. But I think I've heard that before, where they say it is not a serious injury and then the player is out for 2 weeks. So let's wait and see what the scan says and not what the coach's assessment from the sidelines is. But great result for PSG, but for Marseille, they really need to get over the hump very quickly because they're fast losing it.
Looks like a fine place to drift to Italy this morning as Inter extends Serie A leaders DeMarco Missile sinks Empoli to give them a nil away win.
Yeah, Inter Milan again, another. Well, it was not the most brilliant performance, but they were very clearly the dominant team and very clearly the better team. Came out yesterday. Empoli was trying to avoid being thrashed by 7-0, so they played a really conservative match to stifle Inter Milan. But Inter Milan got the goal they needed, and they're sitting pretty at the top of the table. The people that are struggling the most, and it seems that it's going to only get worse from here, is Napoli. Yesterday again, Napoli drew their match a goalless draw, and it's their third consecutive match where they haven't been able to win. Victor Osimhen missed a penalty in that particular match, and then he was substituted, and he was very angry with his coach. He was telling his coach, why didn't his coach allow him to pair up with Simeone as opposed to substituting him and bringing Simeone in? And there's been talks because the anger at the coach and the talking back to the coach hasn't been in the locker room. It's been on the pitch. Captain was substituted. He was complaining to the coach on the pitch. The big players on the team are complaining to their dissent is visible. If people are quarreling in the locker room and you're hearing talks about it, is different. But when you can see them, looking at Rudy Garcia and disrespecting him in front of the fans, that's a completely different level of distance. So it's clear that the players don't agree with what Rudy Garcia is giving them. And it's evident by the results that, Napoli is getting. So I don't know how this is going to be solved. Maybe there should be an emergency team meeting, whatever it is. But at this point in time, it looks like the Napoli players this season are not only suffering because they're not in the best form right now, but because they don't agree with their coach. So the question then becomes, will Napoli now sack a coach that they just hired 7 games into the new season just to get the results that they need?
We're out of time, Tega. So let's quickly pick in some message and then we'll say goodbye inside the locker room. I've got Big E from Ketu saying, I agree with you on that, Tega. Arteta just gambled that match away. Why wasn't Trossard starting the match and you take off Rice at a wrong time? And this kind of derby match, you use your experienced players for this game. I will start Ramsdale over David Raya, and Chelsea to win a match. They need to remove all those players with some name tags in it. But, at this day and time now, it seems like you don't mention some kind of names at the time from persons that are offended. I have come with this is someone, Ejike coming. I have come with my tails between my legs as Chelsea fan, begging the organizers and those in charge of scheduling the games in the Premier League to move Chelsea games to Mondays or early Saturday games so as to reduce this dragging. Allow the mistake clubs like allow the mistake clubs like our own to breathe. That's what he says. Ejike from Ogba. And Mohammed will close us the messages. Tega, didn't I tell you that Poch is a fraud? He failed at PSG with all the sharp strikers in the world. He was aware of the sale of the old players and allowed all to go. So he should go. He should do the right thing and resign from Chelsea's job. That's all he said. And that's a wrap on the show this morning, Tega.
All right. Thank you all for your messages. Once again, I apologize for the lateness. We've been struggling with this network a little bit, but thank you so much for sending your messages. Hopefully on Wednesday, we won't have any technical hitches and we'll be able to come across every single EFL game, La Liga game that will be played midweek. Till then, thank you, Omas.
Thank you, Tega. Have a great day. Bye. And that's a wrap inside the locker room. My name is Omatseye Atsenuwa. Good morning.